In the offices of Barstool Sports, on 2 floors of a narrow building in the Flatiron district of Manhattan, there's a full bar, a semicircle of sticky leather recliners and a wall of flat-screen televisions. Almost every other bit of square footage on the editorial floor is occupied by a dude at work, dudes carrying props, dudes spitting tobacco juice into plastic bottles, dudes typing up blog posts and tracking page views. The center of the space, marked by a giant menorah, operates as a full-time modular studio, pumping out all sorts of content. Barstool produces a Sirius XM radio show, soon to be a whole channel, a growing list of podcasts and up to 90 blog posts a day. The dudes who make this stuff are uniformly young and white. In the 3 days I spent at Barstool headquarters, the only women I saw were Erica Nardini, the company's chief executive, Asa Akira, the world-famous porn star who co-hosted a Barstool podcast, and the security guard. On an overcast day in June, Dave Portnoy, Barstool's wiry, 40-year-old founder, known to followers as El Presidente, stood shirtless in front of a green screen rapping, trying to recreate an Instagram video LeBron James had posted from the gym. At the other end of the office, a gaggle of dudes in impressively obscure jerseys hyped up a one-on-one basketball game between 2 bloggers called Smitty and Gay Pat. I sat down next to Noah Ives, a pale, slightly hunched intern, who was 21 and recently graduated from a communications program at Syracuse University. In decades past, Ives might have spent his summers at ESPN headquarters in Bristol, Connecticut, coiling wires and fetching coffee. ESPN was definitely on my mind when I got to college, he told me. But Barstool is just a cooler brand that people my age just respect more. When I asked him what he meant by respect, Ives smirked and said, the takes are just much more relatable. It's like Prez says, Barstool is by the common man, for the common man. He paused before adding, ESPN is just spitting facts and political correctness. Ives spoke the language of the culture war raging in sports media, a mix of marketing jargon and Bannon-light populism directed, at all times, at the self-proclaimed worldwide leader in sports, which stands accused of losing touch with the young brothers whose attention it once owned. This is surely part of why, early this fall, ESPN announced Barstool Van Talk, a half-hour talk show that would air at 1 a.m. on a secondary channel and feature 2 of Barstool Sports' most palatable personalities. Consciously or not, the network wanted to co-opt the resistance. But the day before the October 17th premiere of Van Talk, Sam Ponder, host of ESPN's Sunday NFL Countdown, tweeted, "Welcome to the ESPN family," to one of the show's hosts, along with 2 screen captures of a Barstool blog post from 2014, in which Portnoy called her a Bible-thumping freak, and wrote that her job's statement aired, he wrote, in assuming we could distance our efforts from the Barstool site and its content. Dave Portnoy. Dina Litovsky, Redix, for the New York Times. The cancellation sparked joy in sports media's more progressive ranks, which tend to view Barstool with the same disdain that their colleagues in political news might view Breitbart or the Daily Caller. Skipper's statement was, however, paying Portnoy a kind of compliment. Only 2 years ago, any business that wanted to partner with Barstool knew it would be partnering with the unfiltered chauvinism that made Portnoy a minor celebrity in Boston, his hometown. Now the president of the biggest sports network in the world was admitting that he had believed there was a way to temper Barstool for a mainstream market. Once upon a time, they, ESPN, were the coolest people in the room, said Richard Deitch, a media columnist for Sports Illustrated, in a podcast discussing the controversy. That's not the case in 2017. It's the opposite. They are polarizing, people dislike them on all sides. By partnering with Barstool, he said, they were trying to associate themselves with who they believe are the cool kids in the room. Portnoy says he doesn't really think ESPN's future depends on the implied politics of its on-air personalities, but he knows a branding opportunity when he sees one. And the entrenched narrative that the once irreverent network has fed its soul to the hounds of political correctness and liberal fake news, is certainly an opportunity. As professional athletes have knelt for the national anthem, criticized the president and railed against police violence, ESPN has been repeatedly accused of being too sympathetic to them and too liberal for its own good. A company once built on an aggressively apolitical foundation has somehow become a locus of almost every imaginable type of political fight. As it has blundered its way through widely publicized incidents like Jamel Hill's tweets about the president and the NFL, the sports radio host Clay Travis has taken to calling the network ESPN. The reporter Brett McHenry has suggested that she was fired from the network for professing her conservative beliefs. Whether these critiques are accurate seems largely irrelevant. Neither does it particularly matter that Portnoy and his cast of bloggers are largely liberal-leaning dudes from the breeding grounds of the coastal elite. There exists a swarm of angry sports fans who maintain that they do not want to talk about Colin Kaepernick or the national anthem, and Barstool has cleared a space for them to gather and talk, mostly, about just how much they don't want to talk about politics. They claim to be an overlooked majority, the vast market inefficiency that will richly reward anyone who will let them watch their games, memes,